Welcome to Full Spectrum News, hosted by Rob Yox. Today's date, February 3rd, 2021. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Full Spectrum News. I am Rob Yox. This is the place for information. You said it. We did it. Here it is. We've got a great show for you tonight. First and foremost, what happens when the lines of communication between a press secretary and a president get construed or just aren't there? Well, I'm going to show you. When this woman, Jen Psaki, first took the secretary to the press of the White House, it was like she never even talked to Joe Biden ever. This Obama holdover, you know, basically every time that they asked her any pertinent question of information or needed to get something from her for a press release or anything like that, we would always get the dreaded, you know, we've all seen it, so we're going to go ahead and play it.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly.
So instead of us circling back, the question needs to be asked is how much does she actually talk to the president? If this woman, like I said, had any pertinent information, she's sure not telling anybody in the public what's going on. So, when she does have the information too, here is another part of what she does. It is absolutely the craziest thing I've seen. When she actually gets the information that she needs, here's what happens.
They ask whether the president has made a decision on keeping the scope of Space Force.
Wow, Space Force. It's the plane of today. It is an interesting question. I am happy to check with our Space Force point of contact. I'm not sure who that is. I will find out and see if we have any update on that.
So as we see here, she has no idea who's running Space Force when her job is to know all these departments, and these departments are supposed to feed her information. So when press releases, especially in a transition period like this, she should be on the forefront of what exactly is happening for every branch of every department and government. Wrong or right. She knows all about the military and all the rest of it. But it seems as if when she does know the answer and somebody asks the question, she's condescending. What does all this tell you? All this tells me that, this woman thinks that she's better than me or you. In one aspect, she, should be more confident. It also means that she's not right for this job. Compared to Kayleigh McEnany, this woman is meek, feckle, and pretty much worthless. I'm just saying that out loud, what everybody's thinking, and I apologize for that. But the funny part is that basically the secretary to the press is supposed to meet with the president every day. So the question remains yet again, who is she talking to? Is she talking to Biden? And if she's talking to Biden, what is he saying? I can only imagine. He would be saying things like, what am I signing? Hey, who are you? Doesn't even know her from a hole in the wall. Or, and I like that we started the show on a light note today. But, I mean, this is really, it's incredible, the amount of non-transparency that this administration actually has. This goes along with the 44 EOs that he signed. She could barely answer any of them. And, I mean, who could with 44 going out in the first week and a half? I mean, to know every last aspect of every last one of those bills, I'm pretty sure nobody even read it. Not all of them anyway. And I believe that, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, the real radicals of the party are the ones putting these EOs up. So after this condescending craziness that Jen Psaki went through, people were like, but, Space Force is a legitimate branch of the military. You should know these things. So they kind of went after her a little bit. Let's get to that as well. That's pretty funny too.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. The top Republican on the House Armed Services Committee is asking you to apologize for some of the comments that you made yesterday in the briefing room about the Space Force. Will you apologize?
I did send a tweet last night. You may not all be on Twitter. Maybe they're not on Twitter. That said, we invite the members of Space Force here to provide an update to all of you on all of the important work they're doing. And we certainly look forward to seeing continued updates from their team.
But big picture here, I mean, does the Space Force have the full support of the Biden administration, or is the president at some point perhaps going to try to get rid of it or in some way diminish it?
They absolutely have the full support of the Biden administration. And we are not revisiting the decision to establish the Space Force. The desire for the Department of Defense to focus greater attention and resources on the growing security challenges in space has long been a bipartisan issue, informed by numerous independent commissions and studies conducted across multiple administrations. And thousands of men and women proudly serve in the Space Force. As you know, it was established by Congress, and any other steps would actually have to be taken by Congress, not by the administration.
So let's get back to the seriousness of the issue here. Anybody who is in any one of the branches of military is an armed service person who is a hero. They are there to defend our country through and through, giving the ultimate sacrifice. The fact that she would go out on a podium in front of press and mock any specific branch of the military shows that she doesn't care. And the fact that she doesn't care about the people that are defending her with their life shows how disgusting these people really are in the office right now. And it's very disconcerting to see things like this, Jen. If I were you, next time you're asked a question, please don't circle back or say, oh, Space Force. Like, really get your stuff together, because right now, compared to the last secretary to the press, you are terrible. You're terrible. I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. And I'm not here to bash anybody, but this is our only way of the president being transparent with the actual people, which we already know isn't one of their priorities, because, we'll go over some more EOs that we found out as of today, just like immigration, we'll get there. But come on, Jen, you could do better. Maybe you should circle back and be a little bit more transparent. How about that? So let's go to the north part of the country now, and let's start with Wyoming. First, there was the biggest rally held by Matt Gaetz and other GOP participants in Wyoming this week. Also, they are censuring Liz Cheney to come back and answer for her non-support of the impeachment of the president. She thinks that the acts of January 6th essentially put him up in this position, and there were crimes committed. And there was also the incitement of insurrection. So as of Monday, they are holding a vote to see if they were to ask Liz Cheney to resign. Now, here is the kicker. On Monday, she's not sure if she's going to be able to make it, because she has a big donor rally or party in Washington, D.C. So we will be updating you on that as it happens. But also in the north of the country, a new piece of legislation came out just today in North Dakota. And it states the Republican legislators in North Dakota are taking the proactive and constitutional step to push back against unconstitutional executive orders coming out of the Biden administration. They are doing so with the power of the U.S. Constitution in their corner. A new bill introduced in the North Dakota legislature, HB 1164, would instruct the state's attorney general to review the constitutionality of each and every executive order issued by Joe Biden. That is, to me, that is completely amazing. It's a little bit of resistance to this. Just, and Joe Biden was the one himself who said, if you keep signing executive orders, then you're a dictator. So we know where he stands. We know where their party stands. But under the proposed law, the South should the North Dakota Attorney General find that any executive orders are unlawful or unconstitutional, the executive order would be nullified. It would prohibit any state, county, or local agency or publicly funded organization from enforcing this order. This is the beginning of the pushback by the states themselves. As we know, everything comes down to the state level, just like COVID with the response to COVID, and just like everything else that we've seen so far. Everything goes from a town to a county to a state, then to the government. The government oversight is not enough for them to actually go and basically take down whatever they want. It goes by the individuality of the states. Now, one state of the North that I would suggest fall in line with this specific type of executive order is Alaska. Because of the Keystone Pipeline and because of the executive orders with the saving the environment, that they're literally it, the order itself doesn't make sense. You want to cut down the pipeline, which is going to cause more CO2 in the air via train and also truck to produce that gas. So you're actually adding more pollutants. But because of this specific executive order, Alaska, a third of their entire state's economy is based on crude oil. So when you are taking away the Keystone Pipeline, especially too, so you're basically taking away a third of the workforce in Alaska when you put this executive order out for people to lose their jobs, just like the Keystone Pipeline. And he also came out and said something about the Keystone Pipeline again today as well, which to me is just this is flagrant hypocrisy. It said, and this is quote Biden, it was bad policy for pipeline workers to be employed. Jobs needed eliminating through executive orders. This is an economic issue as well. So now we're not as energy efficient as we once were, which means that gas and oil in the country, in certain areas of the country, is already going up. It's been days and it's already going up. So look for that $5 a gallon by the end of the year of this year. And, we're going to see what happens with our taxes. With this specific administration, we don't plan on anybody catching a break. It's just going to be straight through and through. They want to, one thing that I heard today is that they wanted to, forgive loans. But what's going to happen when they forgive those loans? Who's going to pay for them? It's going to be the American people. Of course, bet you would. Bet you would. The funny thing about this administration is they're not exactly helping in any way, shape, or form. What they're doing is they're taking funds and redirecting them and mismanaging them, just like they did with the COVID vaccines. Over this last week, they also lost 20 million doses of a vaccine that is so crucial for so many people of the 75 plus age marker for them to be well, stay well, and to prosper during such a tough time. Also, what they did with the COVID as well, and this is including the whole country, not just the North, but especially the North, where it's extra cold right now and the flu season is jacking up. What's happening is, looking at the numbers of deaths from 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, they are within 10 to 15,000 of each other each year, is even 2020, and the same amount of old people passed away, God rest their souls. But this is what happened. It's the same amount of people. They just basically took what they needed from the flu column and put it in the COVID column, which is all well and dandy. We know that that's how they've been doing it. We know it's all, the numbers have been, fudged, shall we say. But, here's the thing about this too, is that with all these older people, those 20 million vaccines could have went to a ton of nursing homes in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. Shall I keep going? So with all this being said, they're losing money, they're losing vaccines, they're losing jobs. Is there any place within this administration where the American people are actually going to win and not the rich? That's the real question. In other news, comparing the last administration to the new administration, a new poll has come out from Rasmussen, and this poll is pretty telling. A new presidential approval poll reveals that even though Joe Biden has his allies in the mainstream media and big tech, he still trails President Donald Trump's approval rating in his first 2 weeks into the presidency. The results of a February 3rd, 2021 Rasmussen poll shows that 51% of likely U.S. voters approve of Biden's job performance so far, with a 47% of the likely electorate disapproving of his job. Let's dig a little deeper, though. 35% of the surveyed indicated that they strongly approved of Joe Biden is doing, with a solid 38 saying that he is not doing so well. So let's just go back. 35 says that they are approving of the job that he's doing so far, with a strong 38 saying, we don't really like his actions to this point. But it goes a little bit further. Interesting into the comparison to Donald Trump's approval and support numbers among those same likely voters during his first 2 weeks in office. In two consecutive comparisons between President Biden and Trump, it is President Trump who comes out on top. Now, here's the funny thing is that between this is now we're going to go into a different style of rating. This is about the 2 points of interest from Biden to Trump. So between January 25th and 27th, Biden's approval ratings were a flat 48% of likely voters. During the same time, Trump's presidency, he held an approval rating of 55 to 59%. Okay, 55 to 59. A similar comparison covering the February 1st to February 3rd saw Biden slightly higher, fluctuating between 49 and 51. Still, Trump outperformed him during the same time frame in his presidency. During that same time frame in 2017, Trump's approval ratings were among likely voters went from 53% to 54%. So one of the funny things too is that this is all about daily job approvals. So, they fluctuate from 37 to 38 with strongly approving, which is actually an index saying that it is 4 to 5% lower than Donald Trump. So, it's really crazy that, Biden's approval poll results tallied in a moment and in time when the mainstream media is still in its honeymoon phase with the new president. And he's got big tech right on their coattails doing the same thing for him. So even with all these aspects in his pocket or at his disposal in his propaganda arm, he still can't put out numbers that, that set precedent over the last administration, which goes to show you that even the people that voted for him are not faring so well and are not approving of his actions yet so far. It's a very, very strange situation. So in other news, let's go back to our favorite girl, AOC. And let me let you in on a little secret. AOC grew up a town over from me. And from what I understand, she was the same attention-seeking lady that she is now. So what we're going to do first is we're going to play you AOC's magnificent lie on how she thought that she was threatened and all this crazy stuff on January 6th. And, she was fearing for her life. And then we're going to get to the truth because the truth matters, right? So let's play this video for you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show you where exactly AOC was during this time. This is so wild. This is wild, guys. You got to watch this. This is crazy. Okay. This is how mentally ill this woman really is. And this is what socialism will do for you. Take it away, AOC.
I had a pretty traumatizing event happen to me. And I do not know if I can even disclose the full details of that event due to security concerns. But I can tell you that I had a very close encounter where I thought I was going to die. And you have all of those thoughts where, at the end of your life, and all of these thoughts come rushing to you. And that's what happened to a lot of us on Wednesday. And I thought I did not know if I was going to make it to the end of that day alive. Wednesday was an extremely traumatizing event. And it is not an exaggeration to say that many, many members of the House were nearly assassinated. It's just not an exaggeration to say that at all. We were very lucky that things happened within certain minutes that allowed members to escape the House floor unharmed.
Okay, so she may not be able to disclose that information to you because of security reasons, but I can. Let's get to it. AOC was not inside the Capitol building on January 6th, despite claiming to have been nearly assassinated. This, and if you ask me, this is the same type of woman she has been for her whole life, attention seeking, right? So AOC wasn't even in the Capitol building where all the action was going down. If she was in her office, she was in the Cannon building, which is nearby, but it's a different building. So, but of course, many didn't get the logistics and just assumed that she was in the Capitol building, which is kind of funny. So, according to Rep. Nancy Mace, the Republican from South Carolina, who has an office in the same hall as AOC, 2 doors away, they were never any rioters in their hall. So there was never any physical danger from rioters. So let's think. Those moments that she was escorted out of the building was when the Capitol Police came knocking on her door and said, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, we have to go. And then she makes this out like she was afraid of the Capitol Police for her life, like they were going to do something to her. So the Capitol Police were likely trying to evacuate the building as quickly as possible, and the officers were focused on getting people out of the way quickly. So maybe they grabbed her. They said, come on, Miss Ocasio-Cortez. We know you're not too bright. Please follow us. This is the type of lying and attention-grabbing malarkey that these people are propagating, just like what we showed you with Nancy Pelosi. There's enemies within the Senate and the Congress themselves. They are propagating violence on other members. There's no way that somebody with basically, I mean, there is a possibility of it. Let me not say that, but the likelihood of a senator or a House representative showing violent tendencies would probably negate the fact that they're even in that office to begin with. So what they're doing is they're spewing this rhetoric to villainize one side. Okay. And we also know that the Capitol riots weren't so much riots. There was some people that were Trump supporters that were in between the velvet ropes, yes, but most of the Trump supporters were outside yelling at the Capitol Police to get backup. Also, what were they doing? They were being led into the building by Antifa members that we have seen on Twitch come forward and say, I can't believe we got these people in the building. And I know we keep harping on this subject, but I want to make sure that all the factual evidence is out for the world to see, because these lying hypocrites want to say things like, I was threatening my life was threatened. I felt like I was going to get assassinated. You weren't even in the area where things were happening. They took you out the left wing door without you even being a part of it. And then you wanted to jump in front of Instagram and say, but me, the attention's got to come back to me. You make me sick. You need to toughen up your game, and you need to do a little bit of a better job of lying if you're actually going to lie to the American public. It's pathetic. All right, everybody. And now for tonight's top story. Awesome. So tonight's top story it's a little difficult to follow, but from what we understand, going into the campaign, Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother had ties to foreign countries, which are our enemies, and they were getting money. Also, it was found out that at Harvard, a specific professor was taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. Anytime that we say China in this referencing, it is going to mean to the CCP. So we're going to call them the CCP. There is a ring of what we thought would be a liability because of the ties that Joe Biden and his cabinet have to the CCP. And what we're going to do is we're going to outline some of how that all works together. So follow with me. It's a little difficult at first, but once you hear the names and everything comes to pass, you will see exactly where the threat lies. So, first thing we're going to do is this is from the National Pulse, and it's revealed that Biden advisors deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party and military and propaganda. The writer of this article is Natalie Winters. I suggest that everybody read this. I'm going to put it in the description so you can click on it and go to it. This article is so important. This is from February 2nd now. So, it's this is so deep and such a web that you have to understand that before we even got to this point, there were murmurs, shall we say, not on mainstream media or on big tech, that Joe Biden's son, Hunter, where everybody was saying, "Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter?" was all because of his ties to China. So now we find out that it goes so much deeper than we ever thought, along with what we talked about with Harvard. So, Harvard University's Belfer Center, which counts participation from a host of current and former Joe Biden advisors, has reportedly hosted conferences alongside the Chinese Communist Party, frequently publishing papers peddling its CCP narratives, all while refusing to disclose its source of funding. This man, this head professor, was already caught. So the National Pulse can reveal that the center has hosted cybersecurity working groups alongside the Communist Chinese Party government and military officials, despite China's repeated poaching and hacking of U.S. technology. So a little insight of how this works, right? The working group in Cambridge brought together 20 representatives, including former government and military officials, as well as tech, business, academic professionals, to discuss the current issues of a bilateral cyber relationship. Bilateral, America, China, right? Communist China, not just China, communist China. So you're going to hear a lot of buzzwords in this article. People that we have heard that when President Trump was in office, he banned these specific companies from being in the United States because of what they did in spying on people. The group role played fictitious cyber scenarios, discussed sensitive technology matters relating to artificial intelligence, Yahweh, arms control frameworks, and more. Both sides worked through the fictitious cyber scenario to discuss what the respective governments and companies would do in the face of a third-party attack on critical infrastructure. The working group also discussed AI, IP theft, supply chain security, and Yahweh, arms control frameworks, and the controlling the spread of malware over the dark web. So let's stop right there for a second, okay? Yahweh was thought to be spying on the American people and on the British people. It was removed from or banned from both of our country and Great Britain for that one fact, because they believed that they were getting specific information on American citizens and British citizens. Therefore, it was no longer allowed in the United States. So the conference is held alongside the China Institute for International Strategic Studies, the CIISS, which boasts participation from the Chinese Communist Party, political figures, diplomats, military scholars, economists, public figures, and academics. The Beijing-based group's leadership is entirely comprised of former Chinese Communist Party officials, often high level, or former leadership of Chinese government-run bodies. Similarly, every member of the group's academic committee has either worked directly for the Chinese Communist Party or a state-run organization. The group members have been reportedly seen their works published by the Press of the Party School of the Chinese Communist Party Central Committee, including How to Become a Great Power, World Order, and China's Role, the 500 year history of socialism. right? So, nevertheless, the Harvard Center felt comfortable swapping cybersecurity tips with the group, even inviting its senior advisor, General Ho, for a speech, and that's HAO Ho, for speech and a perspective from the PLA, a conversation with Major General Ho Yeli, right? So let's talk about the people inside of the White House that were a part of this center at Harvard. Okay. Some of the most high level advisors in the Biden White House would appear to have no issue with the aforementioned liaisoning with the Chinese Communist Party and its military. Ash Carter, an Obama era Secretary of Defense, leads the Belfer Center, and the Rosenbach Fellow Obama administration national security alum leads the Chinese initiative. Jake Sullivan, that name is so important. If you don't know who Jake Sullivan is, he's Biden's national security advisor, obviously. But Jake Sullivan, Biden's national security advisor, has served as a senior fellow at the Belfer Center. So now, let's pump the brakes. These high level Biden officials have worked at the Belfer Center or have participated in the Belfer Center at Harvard, who we know some of their some of the colleagues within Harvard or professors were taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. Also, they have run initiatives with the Chinese Communist Party during, let's say, October 2017, all these times. So before now that they were in office, once Obama got them out of office, they went and worked alongside the Chinese for a very long time, well, about 4 years, 5 years, enough that they could be tainted or even a national security threat. So, what's more, Biden's director of national security, Avril Haines, who recently hesitated to call China a competitor and instead of opting for the global competitor, appeared on the center's Office Hours podcast in October of 2017. On the episode, Haines discusses her rise to power within the Obama White House as deputy director of Central Intelligence Agency and North Korea. She called the relationship fascinating between North Korea and China. Yikes. If that's not compromised, I don't know what is. Okay. So Haynes Sullivan and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, we know who Blinken is. When that whole thing with Myanmar came out, he sat on the sidelines and said nothing. Okay. Also signed a, a Belfer Center backed letter advocating for the collaboration between the U.S. and China to develop a vaccine and insisting the U.S. can rely on China for protective gear and medicines needed to fight the virus. I don't know about you, but that scares the ever living daylights out of me. They're the ones who unleashed this on the world. And now we're going to go back to them for gear, supplies, medicines. We also know that when this first hit, right, they were hoarding all of that stuff, not giving it out to the rest of the world. So you're going to tell me that, this is great. So really great, right? And the former fellow, Paul Rosen, served as counsel to then Senator Biden. From Associate John Wolfstall, served as a special advisor to the Vice President for Nuclear Security and Nonproliferation. And current senior fellow Elizabeth D. Sherwood Randall previously served as then Senator Biden's chief advisor on foreign and defense policy. Guys, are, are we not seeing this? So now we get into the propaganda part. The group also fails to disclose its funding on its website, although Harvard, as an institution, leads its peers in accepting nearly $1 billion in donations from the country, right? When reached out for comment, the center refused to comment on whether or not it had received money from the Chinese government or its affiliate entities. The Belfer Center also refused to turn over financial documents relating to its donors. Those who have something to hide most of the time will say nothing and reveal nothing. They will give you nothing when asked. They will ignore you. And this is so dangerous. So the precedent is set, right? The table is set where all these Chinese Communist Party officials and generals, economists, military people, uh, all working side by side with the top now cabinet to the most radical, agended, socialistic administration and progressive administration we've ever had. So here's another part. The center's financial arrangements are more shadier in its by its routine publication of papers and research aligning with, in, or in defense of Chinese Communist Party narratives. Oftentimes, the work is laundered in establishment magazines such as The Atlantic and Foreign Policy, right? So the feller Calder Walton rationalized Chinese telecom company Yahweh spying a national security threat he downplays in a piece entitled China Will Use Yahweh to Spy Because So Would You in the Foreign Policy magazine, right? Also writing stuff in the Financial Times, articles entitled America, Don't Try to Out China, and China and US must learn from one another and collaborate on CBDC have also been penned by the center's researchers. This revelation comes as the White House source report huge internal arguments over whether or not to label the events in Myanmar a coup for fear of angering China. I mean, this is like unreal. So we have Biden not coming out to say that China might have, that he has these ties with China. So China is actually in with the Myanmar military. So what happens in Myanmar? There is a military coup. We all saw the woman doing her Pilates and dancing in front of big military trucks, taking the political officials they took them out of power and arrested them, right? They're asking for them to be released, but they did this on the basis of the Myanmar election. They said it was fraudulent, and now they're going to make a statewide emergency for an entire year, and then after that entire year, what they're going to do is they're going to hold fair and free elections. There is so much left to come out on this. We will keep reporting it to you as the days go on. But for right now, we need to keep our eye on the White House and that cabinet of advisors because they have so many multiple links to Harvard and to the Chinese Communist Party. This is paramount. I talk about this all the time. The safety of our nation is being entrusted to these types of people. So with that being said, my name is Rob Yox. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Please share this out to every and any social media platform. We need to get this message out, especially the top story. If you're here right now, please share this, like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have a channel on Rumble and BitChute as a backup. So I want to say, God bless everybody in America. Every American, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless our heroes, the military and the police. God bless this country, and God bless this whole entire planet, because I'm telling you right now, we need it. Thank you very much. This has been Full Spectrum News, February 3rd, 2021. Have a great evening.